Hi, everyone. As Lisa said, my name is Caroline Proto. I am the Director of Global Media for Sunglass Hut, specifically at Luxottica. This is a really fun game we play because many of you probably don't know who Luxottica is when I say the name. However, oh, there we go. We have all of these brands plus many more. So Luxottica is the parent company, and we actually merged with Essilor-Luxottica, who represents some of your favorite eyewear brands: Ray-Ban, Oakley, Costa, Persol, Oliver Peoples, Vogue, Arnett. We also own the retailers where those are sold. As I said, I oversee Sunglass Hut and Solaris globally. We have lens crafters in our portfolio: Pearle Vision, Target Optical, and then this is the game of and. And then we also own the licenses for many of the luxury brands such as Prada, Versace, Chanel, Michael Kors. I could do the list. We would be here the entire time. But just kind of an overview. So obviously we touch into a lot of spaces, a lot of categories, but we're going to focus today on Sunglass Hut because given this is TV and video, our retail brands, Sunglass Hut and Lens Crafters, are our two brands that have a pretty significant investment in the linear and connected TV space. So, we've been talking here today, and that panel was wonderful. Thank you guys so much. And obviously, I think TV has kind of gotten a bad rap of having a stale script. Overall, we know linear TV is very expensive, and the process is very long, especially when you are doing the upfronts, which is how we buy at Luxottica. So it maintains a high cost of entry. It's booked a year in advance. And I think as we've all seen post kind of this COVID world, booking a year in advance before, you weren't seeing too many changes in consumer behavior, the economic climate. That is no longer the case. What we're booking right now, I have no idea what's going to be happening in the consumer, in the market, with the economy a year from now, yet I am investing millions and millions and millions of dollars into something that I'm hoping is doing okay a year from now. Also, post-campaign reporting obviously is much more delayed, especially as we've moved into this digital world where we are used to seeing things in real time so quickly, being able to move pieces, move dollars. TV does have, those downfalls. So it's definitely something that I think we were really struggling with, but we know TV works, and I think this morning, Karina also made a comment about how when they turned their TV on, they saw it tripled their traffic. We know it works, both short-term and long-term, but it's so difficult and manual and fragmented to be able to prove that out. We know people are watching, binge watching. I'm a huge binger. Love to sit there for hours and watch my shows on connected TV. So we needed to start finding a way to really start connecting these pieces in the fragmented landscape. But like we said, quantifying it has remained limited. TV, especially linear TV and connected TV, we know connected TV, you're able to get a bit more metrics, but from a linear perspective, you were still really relying on reach, frequency, and GRPs. And it's because it's what's been available up until recently, and marketers got really comfortable and used to seeing those sorts of metrics, and it was great. But when we are in a climate like we are in right now, if you are not able to put a business objective to those numbers, what does it really mean, especially when you're going, for any of the marketers in the room, when you're going and speaking to your finance teams? And I'm going to finance and I'm saying a GRP threshold, they're like, great, what? And great, and what does that equate to in terms of actual dollars to be able to secure that investment a year from now? So it really left us as a business with a plot hole here. So like I said, video investments for Sunglass Hut are one of our largest categories when I think of our full pie of our budgets here. Linear TV and connected TV costs have continued to rise despite, as we've seen, obviously where viewers are moving is changing. Viewership behaviors continue to rapidly change. I think there was a great chart this morning that we saw from Nexon, actually, that showed streaming is actually more than cable or broadcast. The landscape has continued to become more fragmented, as we just heard on our last panel, and commitment timelines continue to be pulled up. I feel like each year we're talking about the upfront earlier and earlier and earlier about how much budget we need to invest, but then the actual negotiation and securing the inventory timeline is taking even longer. So it's really this difficult conversation of something that we know works, but is not the most, pretty package to bring to senior management, especially at a European company. So our conversations as well, and for those of you who I've spoken to, I previously was at an agency and now at a brand side, our conversations have moved from media metrics to business objectives. If I cannot put a business objective number to the investment that I am putting here, it doesn't matter anymore. So really leaving us with this gap, and what we're saying, and this is what I'm calling as our plot hole of this connection, our broken link here, we needed to find a solution that enabled us to connect what we were doing in linear TV and connected TV to our main business objective, no longer media objective. So here's what we started to do, and the show must go on. We needed to find a solution, and this has been the last 2 years we've been really working on building this out, is first we audited our established relationships. So this was twofold. So as I said, the main business objective for Sunglass Hut is foot traffic in store. Brick and mortar still makes up a majority of our revenue. So we need to physically get people into brick and mortars, and many of our stores are in malls. We have over 1,300 stores in the United States alone, many of which are in malls, which we know traffic is down. So obviously we're already kind of fighting an uphill battle here. So what we did is twofold. The first step was find a foot traffic partner. We audited 3 foot traffic partners in the space, all at the same time, and then matched it against our own internal foot traffic data. We do have store counters to see who was yielding the closest in terms of the census of what we saw from our own internal data. We're able to establish a partnership and had that run for a couple of years. As we know, digital foot traffic attribution has been a little bit more blown out over time. Then what we also did is we analyzed video partners who, twofold, we had an established and proven relationship in terms of activation of using TV and OTT data, that we had been activating using their data in a media sense. And then we also RFI'd them to see kind of and qualified what was their roadmap, knowing that when we started this conversation in the end of 2021, currency and the measurement part of currency was still continuing to very rapidly evolve, change. A lot of the networks were still starting to enter, but they were figuring kind of out what their stance on it was. So we wanted to see what their roadmap for these partners was in terms of who they were bringing in to be measured, because obviously we don't want to invest in a solution that doesn't have a majority of the partners in the linear and connected TV space. So we nailed down with 2 partners, Cubic and VideoAmp, and we got them in a room and said, we need you guys to play nice in the sandbox. We need to find a solution for you to take your foot traffic data from Cubic, ingest it into the VideoAmp dashboard that they had, and layer it with your TV data so that we could start seeing what was the actual effect on our TV investments into our actual foot traffic into stores. And it took some time, and I think that's one of the things that I've really taken away from the last couple years in these conversations is we are trying to change a very large portion of this industry when we are moving into these new currency models. And progress is progress. 0 to 1 is still 100% growth. So these people who are like, it's still, you're figuring it out, it's not fully fleshed out. Yes, but it's at least something more than what we've had in the past. And I think that's something to be really excited about being at this time in the industry. But so getting them in a room and really saying we need to start blowing this out, get it clean. And we spent about 2 years kind of connecting the pipes there and getting those layered and making sure that we were accurate, we were QAing, we were making sure that what we saw from our own internal foot traffic as well, obviously, each morning, kind of sitting in our own sales dashboard in Tableau and seeing, this store saw X amount of foot traffic, all together we saw this. There's nothing worse. I think from the last panel from Medtronic, you made a comment and you said, there's no way we had 1 billion impressions. We know obviously a lot of numbers get inflated. There would be nothing worse than if I saw on this dashboard, it's showing me that TV drove, 10 billion visits to store, and our own sales data is showing that we had 100. So a lot of QAing and checks and balances to make sure everything was set. And from there, for the last 2 years, we've gotten it continuously cleaned up. And so here's a couple screenshots, and not to tease you guys, but I have had to blur out anything that's our own internal metrics, so no, you won't get our secret sauce yet. But here you can see kind of what our dashboard is. And we run this for our big campaigns during the year when we do have TV, connected TV. But we also merge all of our digital data in here as well, including now Meta, and we will be adding Google as well, which is a partnership that they announced, which was really great for us because those are big partners for us. So as you can see here, we can see on an overall level, we can also drill down to our specific audiences. So we've started to be able to see on an audience level which networks, which connected TV platforms and FEP partners are really working for us. We're able to see from a frequency. So we're starting to have more business conversations of what is the optimal frequency that we're seeing that's driving our most efficient cost per store visit. Where do we start to hit our plateau of if we hit a 20-time frequency during a flight and we see we've really started to flatten out on what our cost per store visit is. Clearly, that's what we need to make sure we're placing caps on across multiple partners. But I think what's really interesting and what Lisa and I talked about that we wanted to make sure we touched on here is what did we do with that data to move forward, knowing that we're going into the 2024, the upfronts are all finished, but obviously you're seeing 2024 will be a big TV year. We have the elections, we have the Olympics. There's a lot of opportunity for next year. So we drill down into this platform on the actual network level to start seeing on an individual network level who was driving the most store traffic for us and the most efficient store traffic for us so that we could continue to figure out if there were certain networks that just weren't yielding the performance that we needed, and maybe they were indexing when we used previous research tools that were available in the TV space, but we started to really build out this framework of who we knew was working for our business and for our audience. And one of the things that we've now started to do is input new audiences in the platform to see areas of opportunity, especially with this younger consumer, and which leads me to my next one. We also broke it down on a connected TV level and which connected TV platforms were yielding the most efficient cost per store visits for us. So start to really have kind of a path now where we're able to see who is yielding what we needed for our business objective in this infrastructure. So all of this helped us at this point. We had our management and they're like, doesn't sound like, the trades say linear TV is dying. No one is there. Should we be going 100% streaming? This allowed us to start having more informed conversations with our management and our finance leads to really start putting hard numbers into this investment. So two benefits that we found from this were, one, the real-time reporting. Our TV flights, we are a Sunglass brand, we run in the summer. But by that point, you need to be issuing IOs for the following summers up front. So really, previously, we'd be relying on data from the previous year's TV levels from a GRP and post-log perspective. By the time we're running, that's 2 years after the fact of what data we were using. That's really hard to justify and say, yeah, we know it's going to work because it worked 2 years ago, especially, like I said, in the rapid climate that we're in right now. So having that real-time reporting allowed us to have more informed conversations. And of course, like I said, progress, not perfection. It was at least something. It was more than we've had in the past. After the flights, we now ingest our post logs, and we do kind of a final with the post log to really layer and make sure it's as accurate as possible. But we've now also been able to refine and innovate, and I think some really exciting news that came out of the JIC, I know they were talking about in the previous panel as well, but the conditional certification for VideoAmp, iSpot, and ComScore. So really we are starting to see the industry move and hopefully get some more standardization in process, which is great. But what we've now been able to do is this year we did our first DDL test with one provider. We did it with a provider who had a very efficient cost per store visit for us. And because of what we were able to yield from that, we've now been able to, and we feel confident going into the 2024 upfront, going nearly all for our linear investment in DDL. Because we've been able to prove exactly which networks were yielding for us what we needed as a business, that we feel confident in investing that money there. And so it's been a really big undertaking, but we're very excited. We've already seen the performance. We had the first readout of our first DDL buy. We did see our foot traffic increase. I'm not going to give the exact number, proprietary information, but just know it was a rather large number of how much we were able to actually increase our store visits this year from 2022 to 2023 by being able to use this tool to actually plan where we were moving forward and where we were allocating our investment as a result of this data. And that's it.